Guys, I'm sure you're aware of the catastrophe that's going on in Lebanon. I am raising money with a reliable charity, One Ummah, that will help get your donations to those people that require it the most. I will leave a link in the description. Assalamu alaikum, guys, and welcome to another episode of Smile to Jannah.
Shouting? Why are you talking so loud? What's going on, brother? Huh?
I thought I'd try your style a little bit, you know.
He says, "Ah!" What the hell is this? You think you're in a marketplace?
Show me how it's done.
How dare you speak when the champ is in your presence like that? How dare you speak in that manner?
I apologize.
Yeah?
How am I supposed to speak?
Say, Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. We're here, with the champ. Of course, I have to lower my voice because he's in the presence of this man. Something like that.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to pass it. Alright, bro. So, talking of unreasonable requests and unreasonable people, there is anyone who is defending this genocide, I think we have reached the stage that we've been able to identify them by their IQ, which is definitely in the minus numbers. I
mean, I think the buffoonery speaks for itself.
I think these people are, freaks of society, frankly.
Oh, yes.
Complete freaks and anomalies within the society. And one freak and anomaly in the society is, and you guys have probably heard this all over the news, there's somebody called Mordechai Brafman. And this sick, twisted individual, and might I add, with an extremely, extremely low IQ, which is in the minus numbers.
Yeah.
And this individual shot according to him, there were two Palestinians. He shot them. He called the police, and then he said, "I have killed
Where was this?
2 Palestinians in Florida." And then you know what happened?
No.
His buffoonery came to the fore. And those 2 ended up being, drum roll please.
Yeah, okay.
Israelis.
No way.
Yeah.
Really, bro.
So
this was terrorism.
This is terrorism, but The Guardian, The Times of Israel, whoever I saw that covered it, mainstream, there was no mention of the word terrorism.
No way.
But then maybe they're playing with the definition. What is the definition of terrorism?
Well, I mean, there are many definitions, but the most important, I think, 2 aspects of any definition of terrorism is one of them that is some kind of violence or some kind of violation that's done on the civilian population, okay, and or the infrastructure for political gain. Okay, these 2 components are usually there in the definition.
And when it comes to the politics section, I think it's safe to say that it's pretty much dominated by what's going on in the Middle East, more specifically Palestine, correct? Then on top of that, this is a guy who, according to him, has killed these 2 individuals. He's now calling the police saying, "This is what I've done."
Yeah.
And then the cherry on the cake, these 2 guys, his father and son, they survive. They then go on Facebook and they call the attack anti-Semitism. It's 2 lines. People can see it on the screen. A Facebook post. They said, it was an act of anti-Semitism.
It's just like...
And then they ended by saying, "Death to Arabs."
You're kidding.
What can you possibly say to such...
Do you know what, bro? Like, we have been privy in the last 6 months to multiple attacks and seeing them, and obviously they've been reported and stuff. I don't know why this has not garnered that much attention.
That's a very good point, bro.
Why has this not garnered that much attention?
I think because it doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah.
And the narrative is the brown people, the people being occupied, the non-Israelis, they're the ones that are to blame. And Israel can do no wrong, therefore we just pump billions into Israel while our own people starve. Here in the UK, people are skipping meals just so they can survive. However, money will still continue being pumped into Israel. Money will still continue being pumped into Ukraine, even if it cripples them. But you know what? As we continue, the blinding hate of this perpetrator is clear. But the stupidity of the victims is even clearer, because this guy, he thought that they were Palestinians. However, these people survived, and they are now peddling that same hate that he used to attack them. They're still so blind and stupid.
Yeah, unbelievable. Really,
Just the brainwashing that's taken place in Israel is remarkable. In fact, I saw a Jewish lady in Speaker's Corner. She came and she said that if you actually look at the news and the education system within Israel, it's very Hebrew-centric. The one English bastion newspaper that gave him another aspect was Al Jazeera, and that got shut down there as well. They are literally in the dark. They are the North Korea of the Western world. They're not even in the West, but they get included in the West when it comes to Eurovision Song Contest and all
football
these
as well.
competitions.
Europe.
Football,
Yeah.
Apparently they're in Europe.
Yeah, well, they don't perform very well in these contests. I don't know about Eurovision, but certainly not the football.
And you know the biggest irony, this actually reminds me of something that happened last week, which was, we've been saying since the beginning, alhamdulillah, we've been aware of something called the Hannibal Directive.
Oh yeah.
And we know that Israel directly...
Can you explain what that is?
So Hannibal Directive is when Israelis deliberately target their own people so they don't get taken as hostages and are leveraged against them.
And low-key was talking about this to Piers Morgan, wasn't he?
He was indeed, and quite a few people have brought this to the fore. And it's been denied, it's been called conspiracy.
Yeah, I remember, that's
but
right.
very recently, in the last week, Yoav, or however you pronounce his name, Yoav Gallant, who was the army chief on October the 7th.
You sure?
And he's admitted now that we did execute the Hannibal Directive.
You can call that terrorism as well, couldn't you?
But still, the people are like, yeah, but do you condemn Hamas? Yeah, but death to
No,
Arabs.
it's at this point, bro. Like, I think the analysis is as follows. Okay, tell me what you think of this analysis. People, okay, from a psychological perspective, in general, they vary in degrees of egoism and narcissism. Everyone has a little bit of selfishness in them, okay? Now, people, therefore, okay, many people will act in a very tribalistic manner because it's in their interest to be part of a collective, okay? Some people will resist the urge from a moral perspective, or they'll rein in that urge to do something within their own interest, okay, so that they can satisfy the truth or justice. And certainly that's what the Quran, from our perspective as Muslims, tells us to do. وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَأَعْدِلُوا وَإِنْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى. That if you speak the truth, and even if the person is close to you. That's what the Quran tells us to do. However, people are more interested in their own interest, whether it's on an individual level, on a tribal level, on a collective level, on a national level, and sometimes on a religious level, oftentimes more so than truth and justice itself. Now, you'll find that people who are Zionists, because they have this victim complex, they have this superiority complex, which is, of course, ironic when you combine the two things together. They think they're the chosen ones, but they also think that they're the victims. When you combine those two things together, it gives the perfect recipe, essentially, for this, narrative over truth reality. So it's no surprise to us that this is such an interesting psychological case study, bro. You got two people being shot, and then instead of blaming the perpetrators, you blame an absolutely alien perpetrator or a phantom perpetrator. Okay, for me that just shows the psychological delusion. Okay, we could say it's buffoonery, we could say it's low intellect, but it's more likely to be actually a deep-rooted
mental disability.
You could say it's a self-imposed delusion. And it's self-imposed because the narrative of them being the heroes, the victims, and also the superiors, that combined has to defeat all other things. No matter what happens, whoever tries to kill you, you have to spin it somehow to make these guys into the enemy. Like Carl Schmitt, the famous fascist, said, it boils down to one thing. He said that you have to be able to differentiate between your friend and your foe. Okay, so for them, they will not say things that will implicate them and make them feel as if they are betraying their own cause. And that for them is the epitome of their objective. For them, it's not a matter of truth or justice. And we can't be like that. We can't learn from that. For us, that's why when we look at examples like this as Muslims, we have to say, well, actually, Our religion teaches us وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَأَعْدِلُوا وَإِنْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى. If we speak the truth even if the person is close to you. Our religion teaches us that, you know, كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. That be upright standing with justice even if it's against yourself or your close kindred or people that are close to you.
This ayah has been it's been put in one of the Harvard buildings as well, because it's an ayah or a sentence that truly encapsulates justice, and they liked it so much that they've actually written it on the walls.
Absolutely, bro. And there's ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم ألا تعدلوا أعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. That do not let the hatred, this is the Quran telling us this, of a people, when you hate someone so much, that don't make that the cause for you not to be just. Be just, and that is closer to being pious. So the Quran understands the psychological reality of the human being, that they're most likely to lean towards their own, you know, family and their own interests, etc., etc. And it explicitly gives us a command to resist that urge and that impulse, and to instead seek truth and justice. I don't expect people without these teachings to be incentivized to do the same thing as we are.
And I think we've seen this in the last year or so with, copious case studies. I'll just give you 3 that demonstrate this unreasonable, cold-blooded hatred. I mean, the first case was a Zionist woman that tried to drown a 3-year-old. I mean, this story was making the rounds.
Where was this?
This was in the US, in Texas. Thereafter, there was a case of a 6-year-old.
Yeah, we know that one. It's very famous, right?
Yeah.
Amr Sulaiman covered that and stuff, and he went and saw the victim.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course...
What was his name? Do you remember his name?
I don't, but we'll have it on the screen. People can see his, wonderful, beautiful face, and, may Allah bless him and his family, and, grant them sabr. And, of course, you see on the screen someone in the early 20s, a protester. Again, like... this violent extremist Zionism, terrorism is on the rise, and we're seeing them now enter the West and these countries and go for children. Yes?
Yeah, it's always children, isn't it? It's always children. I wonder why. It's because they're defenseless. And this is the epitome of cowardice.
First Samuel chapter 15 verse 3 says exactly the same thing. And in fact, when Benjamin Netanyahu came on the stage in front of the cameras, he said Amalek. And B'Tselem says that anyone who's been through the education system in Israel know when Amalek is said, everybody knows that it means every man, woman and child. And that's what we're seeing.
I think you've summarized it in a very powerful way. And
I have, haven't I?
Yeah, you have, to be honest. And I think these 3 case studies in the last 12 months, Ahi, that they'll be enough to show that it's not just terrorism in the Middle East. They're actually bringing it to our doorsteps in the West. But we're not seeing that narrative once again be portrayed in the Western media. But we are going to force, inshallah, a change. And that's why we need your support with channels like S2J News, which I'm sure you guys are sharing the articles, the fantastic, well-researched articles of Zishan Ali and all of the editors working in that.
And not to forget critical content news as well.
Of course, which we need to be doing a bit more.
Of course, we all do.
We will be.
Until next time.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.